Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with another MMATakeover.com special edition. Today's guest is a fighter with a 25-8 record, with 23 of his wins coming by stoppage. He's riding a six-fight winning streak with a perfect 1-0 in the UFC. He returns to the octagon at UFC Fight Night 105 on February the 19th in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, against Ryan James. Ladies and gentlemen, Gerald Meerschaert. Gerald, how are you?
It's great to be here. I'm feeling good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for so much being a guest, jumping on with us. The first question we always right to ask everybody is how did you get into mixed martial arts?
There wasn't any one, real big moment that made it click. I'd seen some local fights. I had seen the UFC on TV, and one day I just decided I'd try it, and I've stuck with it ever since.
Really? I mean, did you come from like a wrestling background, any karate or anything like that beforehand?
When I was a kid, I took Taekwondo a little bit, but actually, I was in college on a partial scholarship in music education when I started training. So I was going to be a music teacher, and then I started fighting. And it's kind of a, same thing pretty much.
Really? No, is there an instrument you play, or do you sing, or what?
Yeah, I played the alto sax for about 8 years up to that point, and one of the requirements of my scholarship was that I performed in the jazz ensemble and the wind ensemble at the school I was attending. So I was kind of doing that on the side while I was training before I made the full time to MMA.
So you're probably officially the toughest saxophone player in the world.
I'd like to think so, yeah.
I don't know if there's anybody out there that wants to challenge you for toughest, but well, I'm gonna put you right now as the official toughest saxophone player in the world. So let's get into Roufusport. We're part of Roufusport, which is one of the premier MMA organizations in the world, one of the best teams in the world. For anybody who doesn't know, that's the Pettis brothers, Anthony Pettis, Sergio Pettis, Tyron Woodley's there. I mean, there's a list of killers there. How did you hook up with Roufusport, and how has your game and have let me think of the word I'm trying to look for. How has your game improved just from being there?
Well, I'd actually been kind of, I wouldn't say back and forth, but I had been to Duke's before.
Yep.
The gym I had trained at previously, I was with another UFC vet, Nick Aguilar. He's
Yep.
kind of the guy I got my start with. And, I was doing pretty good on the local scene, and they had heard about me. And, of course, I knew, me and Nick knew about them, and Nick had gone there before, too. And, he's always looked out for me really well and said eventually, like, you're going to have to go there either way. They just got better partners, and you're going to have to learn their striking because it's, the best striking you're going to find anywhere. And I had actually been up there as well. I helped Anthony get ready for his first fight with Benson Henderson because at the time I was a little bit smaller and I was another,
Yep.
lefty wrestler kind of up there to give him that look. So I started
Okay.
doing it then, and eventually I made the move there full time. And it's just it's put my game on a whole nother level. I'm understanding striking in a whole new way, and it's showing in my fights. It's going to show even more next Sunday.
Now, did you show Anthony the Showtime kick? 'Cause that was the fight that he landed it.
I have funny story about that.
Okay.
He tried that shit on me in the gym before that fight. That wasn't just something he busted out. He threw that at me. Luckily, I was smart enough to keep my hands up, but I went back to my other gym and I was like, guys, I'm telling you, I don't know what he did, but he jumped off the freaking wall and tried to take my head off. As soon as he did it in the fight, I'm jumping and screaming. I'm like, that was it. So that was
I,
pretty cool.
Let me tell you a story. I was watching that fight. I actually had a cold that day, so I was laying down on the couch watching it, and Stephan Bonner was commentating. And he said that was something came out of the Matrix, and I literally stopped the fight. Didn't finish. There was only about 30 seconds left. I stopped and rewound just to make sure I saw what I thought I saw, and then I continued watching the fight. It was incredible. So
Yes.
so you've trained with Anthony Pettis. Obviously, Tyron Woodley is another. He's a current UFC champ. How's training with champions? Is that something that motivates you to kind of know where you are? You know what I mean? Like knowing, hey, this is the best guy in the world, and I'm training with him. Does that motivate you to get to that level?
Oh, for sure. And I think it's another big advantage is I get to train with these top level guys, and I know that I can hold my own, and I can even do pretty well in some spots with them. And it's one of those things where if you don't get that opportunity, you might kind of put some people on a pedestal. But I get to see these guys and train with them, and then I can think, well, they can do it. Why not me? I think that's a big help, and I think another big help too is a lot of my main training partners that are with me a lot full time, like Mike Biggie Rhodes and Cam Olson. They're still hungry to get in or get back in the big show, and they got skills that are just as good as some of the top guys that I've trained with or fought anywhere. So it's always top level talent around me helping me achieve my goals as well as me helping them achieve their goals.
So let's talk about this streak you're on right now. You're on an absolute tear. You've won 10 out of your last 11 fights. 9 of those 10 wins have been stoppages. What has elevated your game in this run?
Well, I mean, look at my fighting style since I can remember. I've gone out there and finished fights. I got a 91% finish rate. I've got 18 submissions, and I always look for a way to finish the fight. It just so happened that I took to jiu-jitsu quicker than anything else. And even that being said, I've said in multiple interviews that a lot of the time I'm out there looking to make the fight as exciting as possible and
Yep.
look as dominant as possible. And what'll end up happening is I'll end up hurting these guys on the feet, and then they'll end up bailing, and they actually try to take me down, and I just keep submitting them. So if it's going to keep happening that way, I'm going to have 30 some submissions, but hopefully in this next fight I'll get a knockout.
So, I mean, do you have a certain rank, a certain belt level in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I'm currently a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Oh, well, excellent. So, let's continue this going on. Let's continue talking about the fights coming up. You have 32 wins in your career. I believe you had 32 before you even got 32 wins before you even got in the UFC. Did you ever get frustrated thinking that call was not going to come in, or is it something that you just always knew that your time was going to come?
I mean, I'd be lying if I said if there were times where I had a little bit of doubt or just wondering if it's going to happen, when it's going to happen. And honestly, the times that happened most is, there was a little bit of period of time there where I was kind of in limbo. I had a good fight with Titan FC, and then after that, I couldn't really get any fights. No one really wanted to fight me, and some other stuff happened, and it just took a while for me to get another call. And my whole thing was, if I'm training and I'm still progressing and getting better in the gym, and my coaches still believe in me, and they're saying, you got a chance, you can do this, I'm going to keep doing it. But there was probably about a good year or two where it's kind of like, this needs to get going now, or I got to start looking at another way to live my life. But luckily I stayed on the path, and here we are.
So you took the fight on short notice. You replaced Alawali Bangbosi on short notice. How did that call come in? Did they call you directly? Did they call a manager, or how did it work out?
They called my manager, Jeremy Bjornberg. Fortunately, has a really good relationship with Mick Maynard and has dealt with him before,
Yep.
RFA and LFA and stuff like that. So Jeremy had been in contact with him after I won the RFA middleweight title, and then it was, I think 3 or 4 months later, something like that, I got the call up. And most of my fights, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, have been short notice. The fight before my RFA fight, I took it on, I think, a week or two or something like that. The Tyson fight, I took an 8 days notice, so I'm no stranger to those circumstances. And, I stay in the gym, so I was more than willing to jump in there. Wake up was no problem, and I felt great.
So just to recap your fight, you fought Joe Gialotti. It was I don't want to say easy, but you made it look easy fight for you. Just to recap, if anybody hasn't seen the fight, you were really establishing your left hand. You were countering his attacks with your left hand, landed a lot of times. There was one point where he shot in on you, and you landed this beautiful judo reversal where you just kind of threw him across the cage. And then you finished the fight off with this beautiful anaconda choke. Did you expect it to be that one-sided?
Honestly, I did. I had seen him fight. It was a fight that I was prepared to take on short notice for the RFAs. Was definitely willing to do with the UFC. He's a tough kid. He's a strong kid, but he's just got to still build his skill set. And I knew my skill set was, just far and beyond. I have more tools, and to utilize those tools, to my full advantage. When you fight a guy like that, he kind of does the same thing every fight. tough and strong, like I said, but he'll kind of swing circling punches, comes forward for a takedown once in a while, and all I had to do was use my length and I can stay at my range, pick him apart, and if he comes in, hit the takedown or a big shot, and, like you said, I did a lot of establishing my left hand and countering his punches. One of the things that speaks to the skill level of coaching in Roufusport, most are going to be easiest and they're going to happen when you're in a firefight.
So one thing I would just say, you seem very composed in your fight. Even Brian Stan pointed out that you said that UFC jitters weren't going to be something you're feeling, but though in the post-fight interview you did mention it. Were you feeling the jitters?
I mean, a little bit. I've said before I was a little bit tentative, or at least I felt tentative when I went back and watched the fight. I actually got started pretty quickly. I feel like I could have been a little more active and thrown a little bit more punches, but really it was one of those fights where I gotta lay back and let him make the mistake. So I think I handled it pretty well, and for being my first UFC fight, I was surprisingly comfortable in there.
Now you finished him off with the anaconda choke. Is that something that you use a lot?
I love choking people, and most of my submissions are by choke, whether I'm on top or on the guy's back or wherever. So this is the sequence I had been hitting in a lot in training. I like going for my guillotines, and guys had been reacting to that in the gym, and the natural progression from the arming guillotine that I was going to was to kick him over into the anaconda. So it was I'd done it 100 times before in the practice room, so it was just one more time in the cage.
So you called for the performance and night bonus. You did get it. You got 50 G's. What did you spend anything? You spend that money on anything good?
I got myself a new vehicle. Nothing fancy really. I had a real small car before, so I got a little bit bigger car, and that was about it.
Nice. So you can kind of call that the Joe Giolotto car. You can put that out there.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
So let's talk about your current fight. You're facing Ryan James. How'd your training camp go for this fight? And I'm assuming we're just so anybody knows, we're taping this Friday, February 10th, which is 8 days before you, or excuse me, 9 days before you step in the octagon. How'd the training camp go, and how much longer of hard training do you have left?
So far it's gone great. I wouldn't say I took any time off. I eased up a little bit, but, I was fine after my last fight. I had literally no injuries, which was, awesome. And it's probably usually you have some kind of aches and pains, but I was completely fine. So right back in the gym, staying healthy, keeping it light at first, but I ramped it up when I needed to. I probably have maybe 1 or 2 more days. I wouldn't say of hard training, but, maybe a little more physically strenuous, but now it's just honing in on the technique, really keeping that tunnel vision, staying focused on what the game plan is, and, just keeping that muscle memory before the fight.
Now, you're a little over a week away from making weight, and you're fighting at 185. What's your current weight, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, not at all. Yeah, I don't cut a lot of weight. I don't cut weight at all. I just diet. So, I woke up today at 192, which for a lot of guys seems really, really light, but, I don't get that heavy, and as of yet, I haven't met someone, at my weight or otherwise that can just ragdoll me around, so I like being closer to weight so I can still eat, feel good, and I feel I perform there better, so I could make weight today if I had to.
So you feel stronger by not cutting weight, correct?
Correct.
So we interviewed Ryan James earlier. We interviewed him about 2 weeks ago. The interview will be coming out this week. So he was very complimentary of you. When we asked him what weaknesses does he see, he was very complimentary. But of course, obviously, he predicted that he's going to win the fight. And what have you seen of him, and what weakness? Obviously, without giving away your game plan, what weaknesses have you seen in him that you think you can expose?
Anyone who watches him fight, they're all going to say exactly what I'm saying. He's got, and he's even said it himself. He does have good cardio, and I'll give him that. And, he seems to have a decent chin. However, when a lot of people tell you have a decent chin, that usually means you have bad defense.
Okay, yeah, and that's true.
He's pretty active offensively. He'll come forward, and he's not afraid to stay in there and put the pressure on guys. But He kind of fights with his head straight up in the air. He throws most of his punches real basic, straight down the middle, which, again, if you're 6'3", it's not bad, but he could be using his length a lot better than he does. So really the range he's fighting at is going to be very similar to my range, even with his height advantage. And again, his head's straight up in the air. And I don't care how tough your chin is. It's not a muscle that you can strengthen by getting hit over and over. Like, it's got a shelf life.
Yeah.
And I've seen him get rocked before, and, I have a lot better technique and confidence in my striking than the guys he's fought. So I'm going to find a home for my left hand, and I'm going to put him down with it.
Yeah, he was hit a lot in his last fight against Keith Barish in his debut in the UFC. Barish did tag him a lot of times, but as you said, he did show a strong chin. But you could say, as you were saying, is a weak defense. So you're fighting in his home country. He's going out to Halifax in Canada. He's from British Columbia. It's just pretty safe to say, being that he's a Canadian-born fighter, that he'll have the crowd cheering him. Does that give you any extra motivation, knowing that you're going into hostile territory and you're probably going to get booed, or is it just any other fight?
For me, it's not, too much different. Most of my fights throughout my career have been in enemy territory, so I'm pretty used to getting booed. I wouldn't say it's any more or less motivation. It's just different. When the crowd's behind you, you get pumped up, and then when I hear the crowd booing, and really, who knows if they'll boo because they're Canadian. They're like the nicest people ever. They might figure out it just being nice. You know what I'm saying? So, and we'll see what happens. But as long as there's a big crowd, it's all good.
So, my wife is actually born and raised in Canada, in New Brunswick, Canada. So she usually roots for all the Canadian fighters. But when we watch, I'll tell her that she can't root either way, because I interviewed both guys. They both seem really good guys. So I'm going to tell her she can't root for the Canadian. And vice versa. Obviously, I can't have her root against Ryan, because he was a great guy too. So let's talk about the main event. The main event that night, we always have the fighters predict. The main event is Derek Lewis and Travis Browne. Do you got a prediction for that fight?
Man, it's kind of a hard fight to call because neither guy has been super impressive lately. If Travis Browne used his length the way he can, then I would think he would win.
Okay.
But I haven't seen him do that lately, and I think even if Derek Lewis comes out last time and has to weather a storm, I don't think Travis Browne has been active enough in a lot of his fights lately. So if I had to place a bet, I'd go with Derek Lewis.
Okay. And now let's go to prediction of your fight. What's your prediction for your fight?
My prediction for my fight, if I'm being completely honest, puts myself and everybody else, is a knockout in the second round.
Second round.
Okay. Yeah, I think he'll come out strong in the first. I think he'll even put up a good fight and maybe weather a little bit of a storm, and then by the second round, I'm going to start really finding the home for that left. I'm going to put him out.
So in your last fight, in the post-fight interview with Brian Stann, you weren't scared to, let yourself be known. I'm here to beat up all the middleweights. Is there one you're looking at, one you're willing to call out for your next fight?
No, I said the whole middleweight division.
The whole division.
The whole division, And let's be honest, this is my second UFC fight. I got to win this one first of all. And second of all, I'm not, in any position to call anyone out. So whoever they want to give me, if they want to get rid of someone, send it my way. I'll put them on a chopping block and send them home.
So usually when we interview any active fighters and they have a fight coming up, what we do, I'd say about a third of the fighters are willing to have a name to call out, and the other 2/3 don't have a name. So we like to give them a name. I like to play matchmaker. So I would suggest calling out Sam Alvey. Let's finish up the trilogy between you have a win against him, he has a win against you. I think that'd be a good fight.
I am not opposed to it, but I don't think it makes sense right now. And obviously that's a fight that people have asked me about before. Right now he's kind of, he's paid his dues. He's worked his way up. And I think he just called somebody else out, but he's supposed to get, a little bit higher level fight. I think it's a fight that makes sense down the road, when I have a few more fights, just because, it would be a trilogy fight, but, let me build up a highlight reel so we can sell it a little bit more, because it doesn't really make sense, because Sam Sam is a tough guy, and if you go to fight Sam, it can be an exciting fight.
Yeah.
You know, I saw him fight his not his last fight, but one of his fights with Elias Thurido.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
that was a smart game plan by Elias, but you know that's a boring way to fight Sam. If you go in there and scrap with him, it can be exciting. So if I was going to do a trilogy, and you know, it wanted it to make sense for everybody, it would make more sense if you know I built up my highlight reel a little bit first, and you know he'll be a little farther down the line. You know, at that point maybe we're both ranked. Then you can really get into it, build the trilogy, and make it worthwhile because you know Sam's a personality. You know, I can definitely play the other part of that, and we can really get something going.
Well, we're fans of Sam. He was actually one of our first interviews, so he's part of the MMA Takeover family. So I was trying to match up two of our friends to fight each other.
Oh yeah, no, Sam's a good guy, and you can ask him about it too. The first time we fought, it was for you know a littler promotion, but they did all the interviews and stuff, and I knew he was going to be the nice guy, so I started talking so much shit. Oh my goodness, and everyone, like the whole state, because it was for like the state tournament, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So everybody came out for that one, and we got bumped to the main event just because you know I knew he was going to be so nice, so I had to play the bad
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. So you have that promotional skill in you.
Oh, definitely.
So we do this thing. We have this thing we call it the fan question of the week or the fan forum question of the week. This one comes from this not one of our questions. Comes from a fan. This comes from Jay. He's from Johnston, Rhode Island. His question is, who is your current favorite fighter to watch?
My current favorite fighter. Man, you know, honestly, probably my current favorite fighter is Joanna.
Okay.
Joanna Jędrzejczyk. That chick.
She's exciting.
She is mean and nasty, and it's awesome.
If they make her versus Jessica Andrade, who just fought this past week, that'll be the most exciting women's fight I can remember. I've never been more excited for a women's fight than that one.
I would buy that pay-per-view for sure.
Me too. So we're going to get you out of here. My very last question for you, Gerald, is have you submitted to the takeover?
I'm Gerald Meerschaert, and I have submitted to the MMA takeover.
Gerald, we wish you luck in the fight. I can't say we'll be cheering for you as we normally say to all the fighters because we had interviewed both you guys, so I'm going to stay neutral on that one. But we wish you luck, and we welcome you to the MMA Takeover family.
All right, thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is another MMATakeover.com special edition interview. We thank you all for listening. To continue to receive the best MMA coverage around, head over to our site, themmmatakeover.com. That's themmmatakeover.com. You can also like us on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter or Instagram, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. We thank you for listening. Have a good day.